Proofread this. Margaret Chen had always been known as the Ice Queen of Wall Street. At 58, she commanded boardrooms with the precision of a surgeon and the coldness of winter morning. Her daughter Sarah, 32, had inherited her mother's sharp intelligence, but not her composure. On a sweltering Tuesday in August, Sarah's perfectly ordered world began to crumble. The presentation she'd spent weeks preparing had fallen flat. The client walked out. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with messages from her mother's assistant, scheduling yet another performance review dinner. Sarah's chest tightened as she sat in her BMW in the parking garage, hyperventilating. Her hands shook as she turned the key. Nothing. The engine gave a weak wheeze and died. Perfect, she whispered, feeling tears sting her eyes. Just perfect. She called 3 different towing services. All were backed up for hours. The parking garage felt like an oven, and Sarah's panic was building like steam in a pressure cooker. She couldn't breathe properly. The walls seemed to be closing in. That's when she remembered Joe's auto repair, the little shop her college roommate had mentioned once. It was only 6 blocks away. Joe Martinez looked up from under the hood of a 1987 Chevy when he heard the tap-tap of heels on his shop floor. The woman standing in his doorway looked like she'd stepped out of a magazine ad for luxury cars, all sharp lines and expensive fabric. But her mascara was smudged, and her breathing was quick and shallow. "My car won't start," Sarah said, her voice tight. "I'm parked 6 blocks away, and She pressed a hand to her chest. "I'm sorry, I can't seem to catch my breath." Joe had seen this before. Not in suits this expensive, maybe, but he'd seen it. He wiped his hands on his work rag slowly, deliberately. "Hey now," he said softly. "Let's take care of you first, then we'll worry about the car. Come on, sit down right here." He guided her to an old wooden chair he'd salvaged from his grandmother's kitchen. It had been in his shop for 15 years, had seated worried car owners and anxious teenagers getting their first brake job. "What's your name?" Joe asked, settling onto a milk crate across from her. "Sarah," she managed. "Sarah, I'm Joe. Now, Sarah, I want you to watch me breathe, okay? Just watch." Joe placed one weathered hand on his chest, another on his stomach. He breathed in slowly, so slowly Sarah could count to 4. His stomach rose first, then his chest. He held it for a moment, then let it out even more slowly. "My grandmother taught me this," he said quietly. She used to say breathing is like tuning an old radio. "You gotta go slow, find the right frequency." Sarah watched, mesmerized despite herself. There was something about Joe's presence, solid, unhurried, like an old oak tree. "Now you try. Put your hand right here on your stomach. That's it. Breathe into your hand, like you're filling up a balloon down there." For the first time in months, Sarah let herself slow down. The air moved differently when she wasn't trying to rush it. Joe's voice was like her grandfather's had been. Patient, kind, never making her feel foolish for not knowing something. "That's better," Joe said after a few minutes. "Color's coming back to your cheeks." "I don't know what's wrong with me," Sarah said, her voice steadier now. "I used to handle stress fine, but lately, everything feels like too much." Joe nodded. "How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?" 32. "Ah," Joe smiled. "Let me tell you something. When I was 32, I thought I had to prove something to everybody. My dad, my customers, myself. Worked 16-hour days, never said no to anything. Nearly gave myself an ulcer." He gestured around the shop. The organized tools, the classic car in the corner, the photos of smiling customers on the wall. "This place, it's not what I planned. I was going to have a chain of shops, be some big-shot businessman. But you know what I learned? Sometimes the thing you're supposed to do is right in front of you, and it's smaller and quieter than you thought it would be." Sarah looked around the shop with new eyes. It was clean but lived in, efficient but warm. There was a coffee pot in the corner, a small radio playing oldies softly. This was someone's life work, done with care. "My mother would say that's settling," Sarah said. Joe chuckled. "My mother said the same thing for years. Then one day, she came by when I was teaching my neighbor's kid how to change oil. 16-year-old boy, his dad had passed, and his mom was working 2 jobs. Couldn't afford to take it to a fancy place." He paused, remembering. "My mother watched me with that boy. patient, showing him how to check the dipstick, explaining why you do things a certain way. And she said to me later, "Mijo, I was wrong. This isn't settling. This is living." They walked to Sarah's car together, Joe carrying a small toolbox. The BMW sat silent and imposing in the concrete garage. "Tell me about the sounds it made," Joe said, lifting the hood. As Sarah described the weak wheezing, Joe listened with the attention of a doctor taking symptoms. He checked connections, tested the battery, his movements economical and sure. "Here's your problem," he said. "Corroded battery terminal. Happens more in this heat. It's actually an easy fix." As he worked, cleaning the terminals and tightening connections, he talked. "You know, cars are like people sometimes. They need maintenance, attention, not the flashy kind, the regular kind. The small stuff that keeps everything running smooth." Sarah watched his hands work, capable, gentle, taking time to do things right. Proofread this. "My mother always said that maintenance is just another word for quitting," Sarah said. Joe looked up at her. "Does your mother still work?" "Constantly. Even on vacation, she's on calls." "And is she happy?" The question caught Sarah off guard. Happy? She'd never thought to ask. Her mother was successful, powerful, respected. But happy? "I don't know," Sarah admitted. Joe turned the key, and the BMW purged to life immediately. "There you go. Good as new." He closed the hood gently. "But Sarah? Maybe take a day off soon. Let yourself breathe a little." Sarah insisted on paying him far more than he asked. As she was about to leave, she turned back. "Joe, that breathing thing, does it really work for everything?" "Not everything," he said honestly. "But for the things it works for, it works pretty well. And the things it doesn't work for, well, those things usually require more than just breathing. They require choosing. Choosing what? What kind of person you want to be. What kind of life you want to live. And then having the courage to disappoint people who want you to choose differently." That evening, Sarah sat in her apartment with her phone in her hand. Her mother's assistant had called twice about the dinner meeting. Sarah looked at the phone, took a deep breath the way Joe had taught her. Slow, into her stomach like filling a balloon. She dialed her mother's number. "Mother. It's Sarah. I need to cancel dinner tonight. Actually, I need to cancel a lot of things. I think I need to figure out how to breathe." There was silence on the other end. Then, unexpectedly, her mother's voice came back softer than Sarah had heard it in years. "Sarah? Are you all right?" "I think I might be eventually. But I need some time to find out." "Okay," Margaret Chen said. And for the first time, she sounded less like the Ice Queen of Wall Street and more like a mother. "Okay, sweetheart. Take the time you need." 6 months later, Sarah opened a small consulting firm specializing in work-life balance for high-stress professionals. It wasn't Wall Street money, but it was enough. And every morning before checking her email, she spent 5 minutes breathing slowly, remembering the lessons she'd learned in a small auto shop from a man who understood that sometimes the most important repairs are the ones you can't see. Sometimes, when she passed Joe's shop, she'd wave. And Joe would look up from whatever engine he was working on, wipe his hands on his rag, and wave back. Both of them breathing easy, taking their time, living their lives at exactly the right speed.